I'm sturdy like a Millie Rocket. Skin clear, still look young, Andy Miller knockers. Money in my pocket, don't call me a money pocket. Engine get to rocket, it sound like a thunder rocket. I still love my baby even when it's toxic. Crazy like she Britney, but no, she don't shade the knock. Russell Wilson way I get low and stay in the pocket. I get paid and do my dance like a touchdown. I can't do no time, don't leave that gun around. In my teens, we were acting up and running around. Now we're grown, still get to it if it's necessary. On the ground from January to January. Never met nobody who retired when they were young. So I guess I gotta get it to the cemetery. Getting paid just for rapping is fun. I lit up around the month of February.
Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. As you guys can see, you can't see me. I decided that today I'm going to do a voiceover rather than putting in the clips of me talking during my workout, because there weren't that many clips of me talking while I was training. I just wanted to get a good session in, especially because my session the previous day when I was training chest did get cut short, and that's why I had to divide my workout into two parts, one lower chest and one upper chest, which is completely fine with me since I am training like 7 days a week already. So taking one day where it's a little bit lower volume is okay with me, as long as that I am making sure that the total overall volume on my chest is completely the same. So today was only upper chest focused. I decided to do 3 different exercises to focus on training my upper chest, since it is a weak point for me. As you guys have seen in my previous videos, I've talked about how genetically my chest genetics aren't the greatest, so I've had to put a ton of work into developing my chest, and it's still coming a long way, so I'm still learning different techniques. But I figured today I'd do a voiceover rather than show you guys just the training clips, so that I can give a little bit more insight and a little bit more help to you guys who may be struggling with the same things that I am. So we'll get right into it. Simple workout today. Before every one of my workouts, pretty much with every muscle group, I do like to do a bodyweight movement just to get a good feel, get some blood into the muscle, get a good mind-muscle connection. So for today's workout, it was push-ups with partial reps integrated into each set. So we did some push-ups, and then on back day I'd obviously be doing pull-ups, and then on leg day I'd do something like lunges or something along those lines. So basically what I want to do is just make sure that I'm getting good mind-muscle connection, make sure that I'm flushing a lot of blood into the muscle, make sure that the joints are lubricated, so that when I do go into my sets, I'm ready to go, I'm already in the zone, I'm super hyped, I'm intense, I'm getting in there. I'm not spending 6 hours in the gym just because I'm spending most of my sets getting warm. I'm ready to go right away. So that's enough about that. Not too much to explain with the push-ups. All I wanted to say was that usually what I do is I'll do one full rep and then come down, and this is what I've been experimenting with recently, and do a few partial reps so that I'm flushing a ton of blood into my chest, into my pecs, into my elbows, all this different stuff to make sure they are lubricated. So this is something I have been playing around with, and you'll see in my workout that I am using this technique as well, where I do a full rep and then some partials in the bottom quarter / bottom half of the rep, because that's when the force production rate is at its highest. So that's all you notice. It's the most difficult at the bottom of the motion when your pec or whatever muscle group is in the stretch position. So forcing reps in that small range is really going to pump a lot of blood into the muscle. It's a form of sort of like intra-set stretching. So we're really just getting our chest stretched out, and then boom, one full contracted rep. So that's how I started my workout, with just the push-ups. We'll get right into the actual workout now. I started with a barbell incline press. With pretty much every one of my chest days, I like to start with a barbell incline press or some sort of incline press movement, because I find that's the best way to get a good connection. I think that flat press is definitely overrated, and barbell incline is one of the best ways to develop your chest. Even if you are trying to build strength, it's definitely a neglected movement, and it's very important for building strength as well as size on your chest. So few things that I'm focusing on here. Most of my workouts, I like to pyramid up in my weight. So I actually started with just the bar. I suggest that everybody does the same. Feel it out, get a good feeling of the positioning of your elbows, the positioning of your hands, where you're driving through, different pressure points on your hands, things like that. So what I did was just started with the bar. Then from there I went up to 135, worked in sets of like 15 to 20, did like 2 sets of that, just feeling it out, really getting a good squeeze. And then on some of these sets I did do some partial reps as well. After that, I went up to 185. So as you guys can see, it's pretty consistent progression, just going up slightly each time, making sure that I am ready to go, so that when I go into my top sets, I'm able to work to failure without risking a ton of injury. And obviously, failure meaning failure of my chest, not failure of my triceps, shoulders, lats, all that different stuff. So I worked up to 185. After that, I did 2 sets with 225. My first set, I believe I did 8 reps. And then after that, I went into my second set where I did another 8 reps. After doing that last set, I decided that I want to do a strip set or drop set. So essentially I took one plate off each side of the bar and I dropped it down to 135. That's a weight that I feel like I can work in a pretty high rep range with and force reps without risking injury a ton. So what I did on this set was I did one full rep, came down, did 2 partial reps in the bottom half / bottom quarter of the range of motion. So again, that's the intra-set stretching. So I'm just flushing a ton of blood into the muscle and really working that outer portion of my upper chest going into sort of like my armpit area, so that when you're standing from the side and things like that, or you're hitting a side chest, that really makes your chest pop from the outer portion and people can see that, the depth of your chest. So that's what I'm really focusing on with doing those bottom half of the reps. And I did that with my incline dumbbell, which we'll get to in a second. It's really great for flushing a ton of blood into the muscle, really pumping and forcing reps for hypertrophy purposes. So what I did was I think 4 total reps, meaning 4 times the 3 reps if you count. So 1 full rep and then 2 partials and then 1 full rep. And then as I'm working on my last set, I'm just working to failure. So I go off a field, maybe do a few full reps, maybe do a few partials, and just make sure I'm not really compromising any of my other muscle groups, but still pushing myself so that I am helping with progressive overload over time and really forcing myself to failure. So moving on from the incline barbell press, that was the first exercise we did. Next, I moved into a dumbbell press. I only worked up to I think about 85 pounds on this, but I still pyramided up, did 1 warm-up set, then got to my top weight. Since I am already warm, you don't need a shitload of warm-up sets, counting them as working sets, just because you're working from 40 pounds all the way to 120 pounds in one single exercise. So what I did was started with like around 65 pounds, then I went up to 85 pounds and I worked with that weight for a few sets. Really went off a field, 3-4 working sets where I'm forcing close to failure within 2 reps of failure, and then my last few sets are obviously to failure. As I said, with this one, I did do partials as well, so this is definitely a technique that I suggest you guys use and focus on. What you can do is really focus with dumbbells on driving through your thumbs and driving through that portion of your hand, the inner portion of your hand. So if you literally put your hand to the end of the dumbbell, and looking at these videos, I probably could have done that a little bit more, driven through my thumbs a bit more to activate my upper chest. If you put your hand all the way to the end of the dumbbell, so it's pressed against the top plate that's on the inside of the dumbbell, you can actually fully force and drive through your thumb, which is gonna help with chest activation overall. So that's something that I definitely could have done a bit more, but I still think that my reps with this were fairly clean, and I definitely was still getting a good contraction with my upper chest, so there's no issue with that. I also believe that, you know, obviously physiologically people are gonna be built differently, so anything that you can truly feel your upper chest with and get the good mind muscle connection with, I suggest that you do, as long as it's within reason, obviously, so that you're not risking injury. I did the same thing here. Worked up to my top weight, dropped it back down to 65 on my last set, and just forced out as many reps as I can. Did the 1.5 reps, so I did 1 full rep, then worked in the bottom half, bottom quarter of the range, just to flush blood into the muscle again, and I drove and exploded up as hard as I could. As far as elbow positioning with both barbell and dumbbell incline press, you really just have to get a good feel for it. Don't flare your elbows too much. You're gonna put a lot of tension on your shoulder joint, but also don't tuck them too much. This is a misconception. Don't tuck them too much, because if you tuck them too far, one, for hypertrophy purposes, you're going to be getting a lot of work in your front delt and your triceps, but also you're actually putting the long head of your bicep at risk, because it does attach into the front of your shoulder joint. So basically just find an in-between. Personally, for me, I like to go slightly wider than shoulder width and just give like a nice kind of like a 45-degree angle tuck, engage the lats, retract the scaps at first, but also allow your scaps to move so that you're not really forcing them and restricting them in one position. Just feel what's natural for you. Don't do anything that hurts. Really just, this is why I suggest getting a good solid warm-up in, especially with the barbell incline, is because you want to be able to feel out where you want to be, what position you want to be in, shift your elbows around, shift your hands around, feel out the pressure points in your fingers, things like that, so that you can get the best possible mind-muscle connection while you're actually in your working sets. So last exercise is a dumbbell incline dumbbell flies. I love dumbbell flies. Sometimes I'll just do days where I'm literally only doing fly movements. So when I was back at the gym, I do cable crossovers, I do pec deck, I do flat flies, I do dumbbell flies, dumbbell incline flies, all this different stuff. I think that flies are one of the greatest ways to build your chest, especially for me since it has been a weak point. It's definitely helped a ton with building the outer portion of my chest because the stretch is so great. Now, one thing obviously here is you do have to be careful about compromising your shoulder joints. So just work in a range that's good, keep the tension. Here I did 2 partial reps and then I did 1 full rep where I'm driving and squeezing through my palms. You'll see on the full reps, I actually do hold for a second and almost try to push my palms or my elbows and biceps together and force that inner portion of my chest to contract. So, and then when I'm coming down the stretch, the partials again, keep your elbows in a position that feels natural. You know, you can actually manipulate the position of the dumbbells as well. So if you twist it inwards or outwards, see what feels best on your upper chest. Again, using your palms and still keeping that tension driving through your upper chest. Don't go too low and take tension off because obviously with a fly movement, you do actually risk tearing your pec a lot. So with all my incline movements, pretty much I like working with like between a 37.5 to a 45-degree angle. This bench didn't actually go below like 45 degrees, which I'm not a fan of for flies. Usually with flies, I do like going slightly lower. I feel like I can really squeeze my chest and it puts my shoulder less at risk when I am doing a fly movement where your shoulder in general is more at risk. So, but I was just extremely careful not going super heavy on this, and then I like to keep it around that range for most of my upper chest exercises. I feel like that's the best range where you're not so low that your lower chest gets activated, especially if you're someone that is lower chest dominant or lower pec dominant, then you want to really make sure that your lower chest, your triceps and your front delts aren't taking over. So if you're doing an incline press and you're too high, say you're at like 60 degrees or even 55 degrees or something along those lines, your front delt is going to get very engaged and it's going to become more like an overhead press. Whereas if you lower the bench down slightly and you're able to really drive through your thumbs, put your elbows in the correct position, retract your scaps, and really drive and squeeze as hard as you can your upper chest, then that's going to be better for your overall chest development. So after I finished those 3 upper chest exercises, I decided to do a little bit of a burnout with some pull-ups. A lot of days I will do small things like this where I'll do pull-ups, chin-ups, push-ups, body weight movements, just to really get a good, nice squeeze. I find that it is good to keep doing these movements. As much as people love to do a lot of complicated movements, as you guys have seen, this workout is so simple. Literally 3 exercises, just very simple, barbells and dumbbells only, none of this crazy cable stuff that you see on Instagram. You need to stick to the basics. If you can't master the basics, then you're not going to be able to build any muscle group. So doing a whole ton of wacky and crazy workouts may be fun and it may look cool and you may gain a few followers on Instagram. If you've been following me for a while, you'll see that most of my workouts remain the same. I keep it basic, keep it simple, and I never do any of that bullshit that all these influencers tell you is gonna work, when realistically, you really just need to focus on overall progressive overload, compound movements, simple basic movements, master those, master your mind-muscle connection, and then adjust volume ranges, rep ranges. Just did a few sets of them, nice squeeze, really contracting my lats and everything like that. Got a good workout in today. If you guys do enjoy this style of video, then let me know in the comments down below. I might do some more voiceovers and things like that. It's something that's a little bit more simple for me since I can just focus on my workout, and I think it does provide a decent amount of knowledge, information, and stuff that you guys can actually apply to your own training. So let me know in the comments down below. We're planning on going to Montreal Friday if this video is released before that, so I think it may be released tomorrow or Saturday, but we'll get back to the Montreal Adventure series soon. So we're gonna be shooting a whole bunch of in-gym content again, and then hopefully some of you guys can actually apply that since gyms are beginning to open back up again. So leave a like if you did enjoy the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, know I'm sturdy like a milli rocket. Skin clear, still look young, Andy Miller knockers. Money in my pocket, don't call me a money pocket. Engine get to rocket, it sound like a thunder rocket. Yeah, I still love my baby even when it's toxic. Crazy like she Britney, but no, she don't shade the noggin. Russell Wilson way I get low and stay in the pocket. I get paid and do my dance like a touchdown. Yeah, I can't do no time, don't leave that gun around. In my team